Well, hey there, everyone. It's Mrs. Acero, and I am here to teach your class how to write an intro paragraph for your essay. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself to you. My name is Mrs. Acero, and I have an online teaching store called All in One Middle School. I was a teacher for 34 years, and teaching language arts was and is my passion. This lesson that I'm going to go over is a mini lesson. You'll be very clear on what you should know by the end of it, and it moves along fairly quickly. This presentation, along with the guided notes, are available to print in my TPT store, and you can find these in the link in the video description. If you're using the guided notes, you should fill them in when you see this icon. If your teacher lets you work with a partner, you will turn and talk in certain portions. I hope you find this lesson helpful. Let's dive in. So it's always good to have a mentor text to refer to when learning new skills. For this lesson, we will examine the song Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. We use the same mentor text, the same song, in the writing your thesis lesson, and they're meant to all go together. So if you haven't listened to writing your thesis, you might want to stop and do that one first before you continue. Okay, we are going to continue to use the song Gaston as we write our sample essay throughout the video series. Your teacher may prefer that you use a different mentor text. If so, when you take notes, just substitute what your teacher tells you to use. So you're going to pause this video and click on the song Gaston. It's about 3.5 minutes long. While you're watching, think about some of Gaston's characteristics. The link to that is in the video description, and you can also grab a copy of the lyrics there as well. We'll discuss the video a little bit later on in the slideshow. So pause here and play Gaston. Before we begin, let's start by talking about why the intro paragraph is so important. There's no doubt that you've written essays, and if you have not, writing essays is something you will need to do throughout your academic career. You'll want a method to easily write paragraphs so that you don't have to struggle every time you're tasked to write an essay. Your intro paragraph contains a basic outline of your essay. It is the structure of the entire piece of writing. Once you have a strong intro paragraph, your essay becomes much easier to write. The intro paragraph sets your reader up to understand exactly what you set out to accomplish when you write your essay. So your intro paragraph equals the structure of your essay. So writing your intro, let's get on board. When you write an essay, think of it like building a house. There are many steps to building a house. You have to obviously build certain parts before the others. For example, you can't build a roof without walls, and you can't do anything before you have a solid foundation. Today's goal is to understand that a solid intro paragraph will engage your reader and set up your essay. It also contains our thesis. Without it, your essay can't be built properly. Without it, your essay will fall apart. So if you notice here, this is our guided notes icon. So if you're using them, now is the time to start filling them in. So I'd like to give you a recipe for a good intro paragraph. When writing an intro paragraph, it will help to have a recipe, which is a list of things that it should contain to make your essay flow in a logical manner. There are some different ways to do this, but here is one solid recipe you can follow to build your essay. Your hook, your tag, your background summary, and your thesis. And we're going to discuss each 4 pieces of that recipe in the upcoming slides. So now I'd like you to try it. I want you to think about a friend of yours. Get somebody in mind that you know fairly well. And pretend that you and your partner in class, that you're currently working with now, meet this friend on the street. Your partner doesn't know this other friend, so you introduce the friend to your partner. What would you say about your friend? Turn and talk and use the bullet points below to guide your introduction. So you want to talk about it like this. This is my friend, Johnny. He or she is a great soccer player. We know each other because we're on the same soccer team. Something that you should know about Johnny is he is really good at keeping secrets. Okay, so pause my video and turn and talk about these talking points. Okay, know your thesis first. This is really important. Even though the thesis will actually come last in your intro paragraph, you'll need to know it first as it is the backbone of your essay. Okay, like I said, there's a full lesson on creating your thesis, so hopefully you've done that already. As a reminder, here is the thesis formula. I gave you a formula in that lesson by examining reason 1 and reason 2. It is clear that my friend is in your claim. Okay, here is an example that we will use in this lesson about Gaston. By examining how he fights and how conceited he is, it is clear that Gaston is rude. So the claim is what we're claiming, what we're saying is true, is actually a character trait. Okay, so keep that in mind. So think about what you said when you were introducing your friend to your partner. Turn that into a thesis. Use the formula to help. Hint, know your claim first, which is, like I said, that character trait. So by examining blank and blank, it is clear that my friend is rude, funny, trustworthy, something like that. Pause my video and turn and talk. Okay, like I said, the thesis is going to actually come last in your intro paragraph. What comes first is the hook. The hook is the first sentence or sentences. It won't be many sentences. It'll probably be 1 or 2 sentences of your essay. It is designed to engage your reader right away. Like I said, it should be 1 to 2 sentences. Here is a list of ways that I find very helpful to hook your audience. You can start with an interesting quote. For example, the smaller the mind, the greater the conceit by Aesop. By the way, my hooks are all going to be about Gaston, okay? You could also start at the end. Example, the handsome brute loses the girl. How does this happen? Use a question. Example, how can the most handsome man in the village lose the girl? Another way, start with dialogue. We're right here, okay? Example, who breaks hearts? Like sometimes it's more than about what's on the outside. You could start with an interesting fact. Many experts agree that spending time with conceited people is emotionally draining. You could start with 1-word sentences. Vain, arrogant, selfish. Okay? Start with a strong feeling. Example, good looks are no match for good character. You could start with figurative language. For example, imagine a flower that gazes only at its own petals. Okay, so now you're going to try it. Create some possible hooks that you could use if you were writing an essay about your friend. Remember, we're talking about that friend that you met on the street that you introduced to your partner. We're not talking about your partner in class, okay? You're going to turn and talk and use the ideas to help you. So I just wrote them all out here. Is a quote, start at the end, a question, dialogue, a fact, a 1-word sentence, a feeling, or figurative language. So pause my video and turn and talk. Okay, let's continue on with our intro recipe part 2, which is the tag. TAG is an acronym. It stands for T is for title. So you'll always want to include the title of the book, and you want to always put book title in italics. Okay, if you were writing it by hand, you would underline it. A is for author, and G is for genre. Okay, the genre meaning, is it historical fiction? Is it science fiction? Is it a biography? We want to know the genre of the book. When you're writing a literary essay, it is important to note this information in a concise, meaning like kind of a quick and easy type of way. So here's an example. In the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast, originally written by Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, we meet an interesting character named Gaston. So that's my tag sentence. I have the title, I have the author, which it's not Disney. Disney is what we would call an adaptation, and the genre is fairy tale. And then we want to kind of explain where we're going with this. Okay, so we meet an interesting character named Gaston. So now try it. You're going to turn and talk and come up with a few tag statements for books that you know very well. Make it into a full sentence. So remember, the tag statement is the title, the author, and the genre. It can be any book that you know very well. Pause my video and turn and talk. All right, we are up to part 3 of our intro recipe, which is the background summary. You will need to let your readers know a bit of background when writing your essay. The purpose is to briefly familiarize your reader with the topic of your essay. The purpose is not to give them an entire summary of the whole book, okay? With a literary essay, you'll want your audience to know these things. Who is the main character? What is the main conflict? And what does your reader need to know to understand this essay? Okay, so you're really focusing that summary into what they need to know. Okay, the information should connect your hook to your thesis statement. Again, it's not a complete summary of the novel. It's about 3 sentences. That's probably enough. It might be a little bit more, but that's about how much you would need in general. So here's my example background summary. Belle is a young girl living in a small village in France. She is viewed by many as being odd because she loves to read. However, Belle is also quite beautiful, so a handsome and burly character named Gaston has his sights set on her and wants to make her his wife. So I've introduced the main character, Belle. I've introduced a little bit about the setting and the conflict, and we need to know a little bit about the background so far as what our essay about. And we're trying to prove here that Gaston is rude. Okay, and that's how he loses the girl. So we're trying to kind of lead the reader into that. Okay, so now you're going to try it. Turn and talk and tell your partner 3 pieces of background information about any story you know well. It really can be any story, even if it comes from a song or a children's story. So it could really be something even like a Taylor Swift song that you know that's told as a story, or it could be something like Goldilocks and the Three Bears to make it easy for you. So the background should include the main character, the main conflict, and what the reader needs to know to understand an essay on this character. So pause my video and turn it. Okay, intro recipe part 4, your thesis, which we've already stated comes last, but you need to establish it first when writing your essay. Here's the reminder on our Gaston thesis. By examining how he fights and how conceited he is, it is clear that Gaston is rude. Okay, so now we're going to put it all together. Now that you have the components, you'll need to write your intro paragraph. Sometimes you might need to add a sentence or two to kind of smooth it out, and you'll know that when you go and reread it. You don't always need to do it, but you might find that it sounds a little disjointed, and you might need to add a sentence or two in between some of it. I've used a color code, and if you're using the guided notes, you can color code your notes as well. You can use colored pencils or highlighters. You could make the colors different if you want, and I think that would be confusing. So if you have these colors, try to stick to them. Okay, and so let's take a look at our entire intro paragraph. And notice that I indented. Who breaks hearts like Gaston? Sometimes it's more than about what's on the outside. In the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast, originally written by Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, we meet an interesting character named Gaston. Belle is a young girl living in a small village in France. She is viewed by many as being odd because she loves to read. However, Belle is also quite beautiful. So a handsome and burly character named Gaston has his sights set on her and wants to make him his wife and wants to make her his wife. By examining how he fights and how conceited he is, it is clear that Gaston is rude. So now we're going to put it into action. If you are currently writing an essay, take these action steps to create your intro paragraph: your hook, your tag, your background summary, and your thesis. And that is a wrap. Be sure to tune back in for more Teach My Class episodes. In the next episode, we are going to get into the body paragraphs. You can also check out First Chapter Fridays on my YouTube channel, where I read the first chapters of my favorite middle school novels. I hope to see you soon.